Hello and welcome to another episode of Artful Loving. Today I'm going to talk about porn. Is porn this altogether terrible thing, or is it something that we can use with some awareness and with some education in a healthy way? Stick with us and hopefully this is useful to you. Hi there, I'm Nick Tovey, relationships and intimacy counsellor and coach. And if you'd like to learn more about me, of course, come to my website, nicktovey.com. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead, subscribe. If you'd like to dive in a little more and get deeper into this conversation, come and join the community over at Patreon to get patron-only content and experiences. So porn is, of course, a big topic of conversation for a lot of people these days. It is it's become this monumental thing. Of course, since the internet has become so, everything about our lives is about the internet these days. And of course, since smartphones became so popular and so widely spread around the world, and of course in the hands of many young people, pornography has become an enormous problem for a lot of people. But what I want to talk about here is not just the problem. Of course it's important that we do talk about that, but is porn itself a bad thing? It's a question that I think we all need to tussle with in some way, and to look at it from multiple levels and layers, but also, how can we use it? What are the conversations we have around porn and its use as individuals, as young people, as older people, and of course as couples? Why not? Let's have a conversation around this. So is porn inherently bad? In my view, not at all. I think porn has a place. It has a role in our sexual lives, in our lives in general. It's, of course, been around since we've made art. Porn and the image of the naked body and the naked body engaging in sexual acts has been something that has been, albeit quite underground for a lot of human history. It's been something that we've reveled in, that we've enjoyed observing. And of course, there's a whole lot of dogma and oppression that particularly mainstream religions have put on us around sexuality and sexual expression that has shoved a lot of our pornography and our sexuality into the shadows. And that, of course, has its problems. And as a result, it becomes this covert, unhealthy expression of sexuality, which I think we're seeing today. And I think that leads back to the fact that it is such a taboo, such a hidden, problematic, sinful area of life, which I think needs to be brought into the light, into the general conversation, not made this sinful, dirty, oppressive experience of life, and just all of us having some honest, deep, and of course maybe uncomfortable conversations around what sexual expression is, how we can use it in a healthy and freeing way, and of course what are the problems with sexual expression. Well, what are the ways in which sexual expression is, of course, damaging and unhealthy. So like I said, I feel personally that porn has its place, has its role in our life. I think as a human being growing up, as a young man growing up, of course I looked at porn. I'm very fortunate in the fact that we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have the internet, and my experiences as a young man growing up, looking at porn was generally just from magazines that I could find, or videos that maybe my friend's father had stashed away sometimes. So we'd go round to their house and we'd watch videos, often pretty poor quality, scratchy German or European videos. But that was a lot of my understanding around what sex and sexual expression and sexuality was. And of course, this is also part of the problem, a really big part of the problem that I think we need to address here, is the fact that most young people are going to porn for sex education. And we're going to dive into this as the problem part of it a little bit deeper as we go along in this conversation. But if we as a society provided more substantial, more decent, healthy education around sex and sexuality and sexual expression, then there wouldn't be a need to go and find our sexual education on the internet. That, I think, is a really big way in which we let our children down and cause problems for them. But there is always going to be the natural inclination, the natural curiosity, and the natural desire to seek out the naked form, to seek out human beings engaging in sexual activity together. And that I don't think is a bad thing at all. I think it's actually a good thing. It's a healthy thing, as long as it's done in a conscientious and healthy way. The industry that's providing these images and these video experiences is ethically run and managed, and those the people engaged in the sexual act itself are there consensually, and they're being treated respectfully, and the expression, the sexual expressions that we're being able to observe are consensual and realistic, and no one's being harmed in the making of them. And this, of course, takes us right into the ethics of pornography. This is, of course, a big conversation because there's such a range, there's such a spectrum of pornography available to us these days, and this is one of the ways in which our today's modern porn industry has just exploded compared to what it was a decade or two ago. It is that what is available goes from the very vanilla to the very not vanilla, and of course extreme experiences of really harmful and destructive expressions of sexuality and power. And so this is where it's important for us as the consumer, as the watcher of these experiences, to really check in with ourselves around our own value system and our own ethics, and to humanize these people that are on the other side of the screen, to question what's going on here. How did this video get to my eyes? How did these images get to my eyes? Were these people mutually consensual? Were these people in this experience enjoying themselves? Were they having a good time, or were there some unhealthy power dynamics at play? Was there some coercion? Was there some potentially, at the extremes of it, was there some human trafficking, sex trafficking going on in order to get this image to my eyes? These are really important questions we need to address when we're consuming porn, when we're watching it. The reality is, because of the nature of the porn industry, with it being so taboo and underground industry, it of course has historically in the past, and still very much today, attracted unsavory characters and industries of organized crime and human trafficking. This is, of course, a big part of. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of money in porn. There's no doubt about it. It is an enormous industry, and so there's a lot of money to be made if you are not a very nice person and you get your hands on young people, particularly young girls, and force them into making videos that you then make money from. Of course it happens. It's out there. We cannot deny the fact that there is a lot of unpleasant shit that is surrounding the porn industry. Does that mean the whole industry is that way? Absolutely not. There's a lot of really ethical outfits out there making quality pornographic material and treating people very, very fairly. Is it all beautiful and above board? Of course not. We need to recognize the fact that there is a lot of shady stuff that goes on in pornography. So it's important for us as the consumer, just like it is in any area of consumption. We want to be checking in, if you've got any idea around your conscious eating and you want to eat the best quality of food, then you're going to do a little bit of research and make sure you know where that food's coming from and how the animals are being treated, how the workers are being treated. The same goes for the porn industry. How are these people being treated? Are they being paid equally? Are they doing sexual acts that maybe they're not enjoying? Maybe they're really not fully consenting to? Or maybe they're being coerced or pressured into doing things that they're just not up for. So these are the questions we need to ask. So as a consumer, when we click on a video, we search a particular title or whatever it is we're doing, we find a video, ask ourselves that question. Who is this person? Who are these people engaging in this? How did they get to be here? Of course, we're not going to know the answers, but at least by asking ourselves the question, we're going to examine and inquire a little bit more, go a little deeper, and start to personify these people. These are real human beings on the other side of the screen here, and start to really bring the humanity into our pornography. This is a really big deal. I think it's important that we really start to humanize these people. One of the ethical questions we need to be asking ourselves is, of course, when we're looking at the porn industry, it is a very male-dominated industry, so therefore it is made for men. Most of the consumers of porn are male. It doesn't mean females don't watch it, they do. But their searches may be slightly different to men. And the industry is definitely, of course, there's a massive homosexual, gay man-on-man porn industry, as there is for a woman-on-woman porn industry. That's the thing about porn today, is that everybody's catered for. There is no discrimination in porn. Everybody is catered for. Everybody can find what their particular flavor of porn and their preference of sexual activity and human beings involved in that sexual activity is. There's plenty for everybody, which is a good thing. And again, like I said, we need to just come back for a moment, take a breath, and start to inquire. Who are these people? What is the story here? What am I watching? How did these people get here? Is she enjoying that? Is he enjoying that? Are they? What's the chemistry here? Are they actually engaged in an experience together that works for them? A lot of the time, the answer's going to be no. A lot of the time, we're going to come across videos that are questionable. There's clearly no chemistry between these two people. They've probably never even met each other. They may not like each other at all. They're there as actors, just as any other actors. They've been cast for a particular part of a show, and they're coming together and they're they're having sex when they may have not even had a conversation together about what each other likes. They're there to do a job. There's no two ways about it. They're there to do a job. So it's important for us to question, are they enjoying their job? Does it look like they're enjoying themselves? Or maybe not. Maybe they're not enjoying themselves. Something that I see that is a very popular thing in today's pornography is a lot of sexual acts appear to be quite aggressive, appear to be quite aggressive, particularly from a male towards a female. And of course the same happens in same-sex pornography as well, particularly man-on-man pornography. But when we're talking about, let's just say, man-on-woman blowjob pornography, particularly where she is forced to choke on his cock, this is such a common thing when we look at it in pornography these days. And the reality is, why is that? What's going on there? What's at play here? That's probably not very pleasant for her. If we ask ourselves, is that a pleasant thing to be experiencing? To be gagging, to be choking, to be almost vomiting on a man's cock and having her head held tightly so she can't back off? That's unpleasant power dynamics at play there. So we need to look at that. Does that mean that every woman's not going to enjoy that? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that in itself is an unhealthy activity. That could be a great thing for two consenting adults to go to play with, to experience. One of the things that's very important to understand in sexuality and sexual expression is that power often plays a very big part in exciting, vibrant, healthy, and alive sexual expression. But what's important when that power play is happening is that both parties are fully consenting in the experience that's happening. Boundaries have been talked about. Agreements have been made. Safe words have been agreed upon. So it's important when we're using power, i.e. one person having power over another, or vice versa, it's important that those very clear parameters have been discussed to make that a consensual and safe and enjoyable experience. That's often not what we're seeing in pornography. We're seeing very clear power dynamics at play, which the problem being is that then teaches our young people, particularly our young people, when they're out there seeking education, this is what sex looks like. This is what normal sex between two human beings looks like. So they learn, sex is about my pleasure as the young boy, as the young man in growing up and learning about his sexuality. And in order to get my pleasure needs met, I need to act with her in this way or with him in this way. Yeah, there's very clear, my pleasure needs are more important than your pleasure needs, and I'm going to get them met by acting in this way, whether it's hard, fast sex, whether it's anal penetration, which often, of course, when we're talking about anal penetration, it's an extremely sensitive part of the body. It needs to be tread very carefully. We need to do a lot of preparation to move forwards towards anal play. So it's not something we do just off the bat. We need to talk about it. We need to have a conversation. Is this something you're okay with? And we need to work slowly towards anal penetration. Otherwise, it's extremely painful and uncomfortable and clearly non-consensual. Nobody consents to that level of discomfort. They may say yes, they may not be saying no, but their body is screaming, get the hell out of me. Get away from me. So it's important that consent is taken into account when we're consuming our porn. It's one of the most important problematic factors that is very apparent these days is addiction to porn. And it's a particular problem for young men, and we're seeing sexual dysfunction problems happening in men much younger than has ever happened before, and this is directly a result of overuse of pornography. I'm talking about men of 18, 20 years of age having erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation problems. A young man at that age, at the prime of his life, should be extremely sexually potent and should never be experiencing any of those things. And so we're seeing the result of overuse of pornography literally cooking the arousal centers in the brain and preventing men from experiencing arousal with anything less than the most extreme pornography. So this is where porn really becomes a problem. And like I said, it's not necessarily the porn that's the problem, but it's the way in which we engage with it, and the psychological, psychosocial factors that are at play in what's driving us towards looking at porn, and then the repetition of that and how frequent that of course happens. Because of porn's instant availability, we can literally pick up our phone and find whatever sort of pornographic material that we want, and it's free, available, ready there to look at wherever I am. And so we need to take into account, how we are engaging with that and why we're engaging with it. When we're talking about addiction for me is a behavior that's driving me compulsively towards an experiencing a hit of pleasure, more often than not, and often to get away from displeasure, discomfort. Yeah, so we're moving towards a hit of pleasure, whether that's masturbation, porn, cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes, exercise, chocolate, food. There's so many things that we are compulsively driven towards getting that hit of pleasure. And of course, it feeds the parts of the brain all the brain chemistry gets activated just as it does with cocaine, as it does with pornography or chocolate. Yeah, it's the same factors going on, the same biological functions going on, and the same psychological factors that are driving us towards that pleasure and away from the pain and discomfort that we may be trying to avoid. So it's important when we're looking at porn addiction, particularly, what's driving me towards getting that pleasure hit from looking at a video of a sexual act. Maybe there's loneliness, maybe there's dissatisfaction in life in some way, maybe it's just fun, but usually there's going to be some underlying feeling that's an unmet need that's being met in that moment. And of course, on the other side of that moment, it's gone. Yeah, we've got the hole back. So we, of course, are going to try and fill that hole. And this is where the repetitive behaviors then move towards addiction. So it's important, just with any addiction, with porn addiction, we need to look at what's the factors that are at play here. What is driving me towards this experience, and what is it that I'm trying to avoid? Porn addiction as a very specific addiction prevents us from being able to have the satisfying sexual intimacy that we want, that we yearn for, that we all desire. Yeah, so often because we're overusing highly stimulating videos of porn, the real thing doesn't really do it anymore. Yeah, so we find it hard, or people with overuse problems find it difficult to become aroused with the real thing. Of course, one of the other factors is that in a porn experience, it's very simple. We're just watching a video. I'm having the experience of arousal. Of course, masturbation's happening as well at the same time, and of course, orgasm's happening. So I'm having that extremely high-peaked pleasure hit, followed by a very deep trough on the other side of that, and a very deep feeling of depletion, possibly dirtiness, and possibly a bit of shame, which of course has an effect on our psychology, on the way we think and feel. What else is also happening is the fact that if I'm not able to find arousal with my partner or a girlfriend or boyfriend, then that's going to have an effect on my relationships. That's going to create a disruption in our connection, in our closeness. So, of course, that's another problematic factor that we need to look at. I'm in the belief that porn can be a beautiful thing for a couple to share. Of course, it can help us get over the line towards creating intimacy if we're having a little trouble with that. It can help spark the fires of passion between us. It can help us explore things that we may not have done before. So it gives us that little bit of, let's start a conversation about what we like, what we might like to explore, how we can create something new and more spontaneous and novel in our sex life. So it can be a really beneficial thing to share with a partner, as long as both people are consenting, both people are interested, they're on board, and the videos we're watching are interesting to both people. And so we've got some mutuality in our experience there. So I think like I said before, porn has its place. We just need to be very, very conscientious and aware of how we're choosing to engage with it. Additionally to what I just said there, I think it's also important to have conversations around our porn use, and particularly if we're finding it becoming a bit of a problematic area in our life. It is because of the very nature of porn, it becomes this thing that we do in secret. It becomes this thing that is hidden and that is done covertly behind closed doors and not discussed openly. And of course, that can create disruptions in relationships, like I was saying before, as well as send us into a bit of a shame spiral as we're trying to hide this part of our life that we may not feel so good about. So it's important, particularly if we're feeling that porn is just taking up a little too much space in our life, that we talk about it, that we open up with ourselves first, and then potentially open up with our partners and our friends, and maybe go and seek some professional help. Talk to somebody like me or another therapist, but somebody who's going to have an objective ear over it. Of course, when we're talking about porn and sex in general, a lot of therapists aren't very good at dealing with this part of life. So it's important, if you are choosing somebody to talk to about this, that you do some homework and make sure that this is an area of expertise, or at least an area that they feel comfortable to work with, because everybody, including every therapist, has all of their own baggage and their own stuff that they bring to their work. So it's good to do a bit of due diligence, particularly with sensitive areas like this. So What do we do? Like I said, yeah, it's such a problem. It's such a big thing for a lot of people these days, and often it becomes quite problematic and does take up a lot of space for people. So it's really important that we do start to bring some awareness to how we're consuming our pornography. Start to humanize the people behind the screen. Ask a question. Are they enjoying themselves? What are they engaging in, and is it consensual? Do they look like they're being treated well? Do they look like they've been potentially human trafficked in order to make this video? Where are they from? Are they there's so many typical places where people are being trafficked for sex purposes, like Eastern Europe, and of course that's not to say they're the only places. So I'm sort of reticent to name any particular areas, but it's important that we question what's going on here. Who are these people? How did they get there? What are they doing? Are they enjoying themselves, or have they been coerced into doing something for maybe not being paid very well, maybe not being cared for very well? Just to ask that question, to humanize this experience. If this was my sister, my partner, my mother, my whoever, would I be okay with this? Yeah, if this was my brother, would I be okay with him behaving this way? And if the answer's no, then we got to question, why am I watching it? Why am I engaging in this? Why am I helping perpetuate this industry in the way that it is, these videos in the way that it is? So it's, like I said, it's really important to just check in, start to humanize this experience. And then, of course, how am I engaging with it? How frequent? How often am I viewing porn? How much time of my day or my week or my month is it taking up? How am I engaging with it? Am I sort of sneaking around, hiding behind closed doors and locked cupboards? What am I doing? What is my behavior? If my behavior is very covert and hidden and insidious in that way, maybe there's a problem. Maybe there's something I need to look at. That's not healthy. That's not an open and healthy and functional relationship that you're in if you're sneaking around in that way. Have some conversations about it. Engage with it with your partner. Maybe bring it more into the open and watch together potentially, and it could help spice things up a little. Like I've said a dozen times in this video already, porn isn't necessarily the problem. It's not an altogether. I don't think we can put it in this basket of bad. It has a place. It has a place, and I personally believe that we can engage with it in a healthy way. And I think as time is going on, there are much more ethical production outfits that are creating really better quality sexual experiences between people. But of course, you've got to go and look for it. You've got to go and find it. There's still a lot of crap out there, a lot of really bad stuff. So it's just be conscious consumers of your pornography. So if any of this has triggered you, has sparked some serious questions around your porn use, if you've got questions around how to engage with it, how to use it better, if you feel you've got some addiction problems or overuse problems, then get in touch. You can send me an anonymous email, you can send me a message, you can put a comment down below. I'd love to engage more with this. It's a really, really important topic, and one I think as a society we have a responsibility to address, because it's the young kids that are getting more negatively impacted by today's porn experiences, and we as a society need to protect them and to steer them in the right direction. So it's important that we start to address our own behaviors with porn so we can do better at modeling that to the young ones that are coming through. So I'd love to hear from you. Any questions, comments, feedback, please put it in the comments below. If you like what I'm offering here, please click the like button, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe. And again, if you want to come over to become part of the Patreon community, then head over to Patreon. I'll look forward to connecting with you soon and see you in the next video.